Well, hello, White Sox fans, and welcome to another edition of the Future Sox podcast. Joining me, as always, is my co host, James Fox. How are you, James?
I am good, Ian. What's going on, man?
Just cranking it up for the winter meetings here. Everything's just starting up. We'll see what happens, and what the timeline is. Who knows? We'll see.
Sounds like they're actually, the people that would know or think they know are actually kind of expecting action like this time, though, where I feel like last time, last year and maybe even the year before, it was kind of lame. I remember the one winter meetings. What was it like? Garrett Cole, Rendon, like a guy signed like every night. That's kind of cool, where they just like start getting ticked off one by one by one. It kind of seems like after Soto signs, you know, that just is going to happen. Like the pitchers are going to come off the board, then some guys are going to miss out.
Yeah, I think that once the ball gets rolling, we should have, a bunch of activity. I mean, there's a bunch of actually wanted product, you know, free agents out there that other teams do actually want. So there should be a flurry of activity, I would hope.
Yeah, and this is like the reason why Steve Cohen buys a baseball team, in my opinion. Now, Juan Soto could just decide like I want to stay with the Yankees, but I don't think Steve Cohen's like going to get outbid for this guy. Like this is like where he tells one of his employees to like get the money out of the guest room drawer in one of his vacation homes. It's like get 750 million cash out of the drawer, please. Thank you. Like I need it for Juan Soto.
Take it out of the. He found some change in the, underneath the cushions of
And
his
the
couch.
couch cushions, yes.
Ridiculous. So speaking of free agents, what did you think of the Adamas signing?
I think it's a lot of money for a player that hasn't been that good until last year. I mean, I'm not like a batting average guy, but I don't know. I think that one could be bad, and I do think like playing 81 home games there. It's just not. I mean, he kind of mashed last year, like so he's gonna have to mash going forward. Um, I don't know. I mean, I think the Giants are like they really, they've been like waiting for somebody to take their money. 30 plus shortstops. You have to be prepared for, what they have. They have Chapman too at third, right? So I just kind of feel like when you sign 30-year-old shortstops, you have to be ready and willing, or just, uh, I guess, you have to think that their offense is going to play somewhere else, right? Like second, third, wherever, because they're just not going to stay at shortstop like into their mid 30s. It never happens. So I don't know. Good luck. Sounds like they're heavy on Corbin Burns too, because he's like from there, I guess.
Yeah. Uh, Uncle Ted says Bregman gets 200 plus. That makes a whole lot of sense to me.
Maybe, yeah. I mean, apparently, like the Astros, I read this. You probably saw it. Like, have offered him 156 million or something, and he's like, no. But I mean, yeah, like it makes sense. Like if teams miss out, like I could see him getting 200. I know Sox Ace from a fan forum. Hi, Sox Ace. How's it going?
Giggities. Good to see you, man. Yeah, and Vince also says that the Adamas is a massive overpay. What he's got like 110 OPS plus. It just seems like just a crazy
He
amount
had
of
30
money.
bombs last year, right?
Yeah, he's got the most home runs I think of any shortstop in the last 5 years. Over the last 5 years, which, you know, I understand them wanting to pay for that, but the fact that age is coming into this,
Yeah.
I wonder. Also, playing in San Francisco
Yep.
is a whole
Brutal.
lot different. It's that
Then
those
Milwaukee, yes, quite a bit different.
yeah,
Yeah,
huge
yeah.
difference. I don't see how I don't possibly see how this works out in their benefit. As far as what is it, $26 million a year or something like that.
Um, no, I think it's more. Well, it's $1 million more than Dansby Swanson per year. I think because he
Yeah, I'd
got
have to.
seven. I think he got 7 at 177, And Adamas got 7 at 184. So yeah, it's 1 million per more. So right.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. That's a that's a lot of money to pay. I don't know. The good thing is that defense is a part of his game. So that's
Hmm.
the one positive thing. Um so
They
Garrett
can't. Well, they
Crochet's
can't. Obviously, they can't be done though, right? Because they're. I mean, they're in a division with behemoths. So
yeah, that's also that's a question of what kind of strategy do you want to take forward? Because if you've got the Dodgers and the Padres in your
right.
division, like I don't even. It's kind of like being in the AL East. It's just
It's
there's
like being Toronto. Yeah, it's very similar, right? Like where you can spend, teams don't want or players don't want to take your money for whatever reason. Like they don't want to go to Canada. Like a lot of people don't want to live in San Francisco. Um, and it's just kind of but the hard part is like their system's not very good. And now you're gonna give up more picks like that. So yeah, I mean you almost have to spend a ton or go way the other way and like do the draft and develop thing. And they haven't really been able to do that. So it seems like Buster Posey is gonna spend the owner's money.
yeah, and the fact that they're actually going to let Buster Posey spend some of that money as well is a good thing for him. It's got a I have to assume one of the things that people said was that because he is a recent player, he's got a lot of relationships with current players, so
Yeah.
that should help him. Is it going to help him sign Corbin Burns or other guys that are going to actually change something that I do
If
not
they're
know.
gonna if they're gonna overpay to that level for everybody, it might help. So,
True that. So Garrett Crochet, uh, we've seen a bunch of rumors out there flying around. Red Sox, and that seems to be one of the bigger ones. We saw that the White Sox turned down a deal for Alec Boehm for Crochet. Do you have any thoughts on where Crochet is actually going to end up, or who the top two suitors are?
I have no idea. But I do like I wouldn't be surprised if it's like somebody that we're not talking about all of a sudden, like all of a sudden Mike Elias does it and he's on the Orioles, Like I mean I think Boston makes sense. Like I don't know if you listen to what Morosi like just said on MLB Network, but basically said that like apparently Marcelo Meyer isn't untouchable in that deal, sort of deal. Like I would make that trade in a heartbeat, like for that headliner. I know like Marcelo Meyer hasn't been exactly what people thought. Like he was supposed to be the number one pick out of high school, but I mean, it's a left-handed hitting shortstop with power who can definitely play shortstop that's been injured too much. Like, and he's like 21. Okay, that's fine. Like, I didn't think like a Boston deal was um, like, likely if it was, like, what everybody's talking about with Wilyer Abreu and Tristan Cassis, because it just doesn't make any sense for the White Sox. The White Sox have to get, like, prospects with 6 years of control, and ideally ones in Double A, right, where they could potentially be up next year, but I don't even think that's as important. You need top prospects, 2 bats at the top of this thing, and whatever, it's just okay. Like I wouldn't mind Tristan Cassis playing for the 2025 White Sox, but like I don't want him to be a featured player in the Garrett Crochet deal. Like you have to kill this deal. So I'm glad they turned down Philly. Like I don't want Alec Boehm. Alec Boehm doesn't do anything for the White Sox. And Justin Crawford scares me too. Like, I mean, I think like Starlin Caba is a requirement in that deal. And like honestly, like I probably wouldn't make it without Aiden Miller. And if they're not willing to do that, then like they can just go spend money. Like that's fine. But yeah, I mean, we've heard all sorts of teams. We've heard the Cubs, the Reds are either in or out depending on which reporter you listen to. So yeah, it should be interesting. Morosi did say that he thinks he's going to get traded at the meetings. So we'll see. I think if Soto does sign tonight, maybe potentially like while we're recording this show, maybe the floodgates open, we get a bunch of signings the next couple days. And then, because I do think though, like Burns and Freed probably matter in all this, like in regards to Garrett Crochet, because I think it's a lot of the same teams.
Yeah, speaking of, I should probably pull up Twitter just so I have this stuff going, just
I know,
so
I got it up too. Yeah,
one
I
of
was
us
just saying.
catches this going
Yeah.
through.
Somebody will tell us in
Um,
the comments too.
Oh, true. One of these guys got to have
Yeah, they'll know.
auto refresh going.
Yeah.
um. Oh, Uncle Ted is full of deals over here. Um, if Chris Getz, if you are watching, Uncle Ted has some ideas for you.
Yeah. He's always got ideas.
He does. Um, so do you think that so we kind of have an idea that maybe Robert is also available, as is
Yeah.
Benintendi. Um, what do you think the odds are of something like that actually happening? I mean, we could say at all, but definitely during the winter meetings, I would think that they would probably have to get Crochet done first before they were going to do anything like that, right?
I would think so. I'm like worried about the Luis Robert like discourse that I'm hearing cuz like the more I like read this, it seems like they don't want to bring him into the season and risk that he's bad still, and they'd rather just take like an okay return than, because I think worst case scenario is he's horrible or gets hurt again, and then it's a $20 million option that your owner like doesn't let you pick up and you lose him for nothing, right? So does Chris Getz think, oh, I'll just get a couple of pieces now and it's like a sunk cost? Does he like bring him into the like? I hope they bring him into the season if it's not something good. Benintendi is a little interesting because it's 3 years at like $52 million. To me, I don't know that the White Sox want to do this, but I don't know that anybody's like gonna just like if somebody would give you like a DSL prospect for Benintendi and take the money, the White Sox would have done it already. So I don't think anybody's gonna do that. But I do think something like Benintendi to Philly for like Taiwan Walker. Taiwan Walker's got 2 years and 36 left. You know, where if somebody would take the extra year from you, because I feel like if you could trade him for like an underwater pitcher, like even who's in Arizona, Montgomery. I don't know
Yeah,
that they
Jordan
would do
Montgomery.
that because I don't think they're going to give you 1 year and then take, but a deal like that, like I think the White Sox could fix a pitcher and get something at the deadline. Whereas like you're kind of stuck with Benintendi. So if there were some sort of deal like that, like yeah, I'm definitely in favor of that and playing kids. I just, the one thing we've said last week, I think, and in the past was, um, I don't want them attaching Benintendi to Crochet just to dump him because I think it lessens your return. So, and then, you know, one of the other interesting things I think is like if anybody else gets moved, right? Because there's really nobody else to move other than like, you know, we don't know for sure that Davis Martin is like out there, but ever since Fegan brought it up, like,
It's just stuck in the back of your head, isn't it?
well, it's just like the type of guy where like if they traded him and you got like 4 prospects back and people are like, oh my God, how did they get that much? You know, that sort of thing. Because like he's a number 4 starter with like 5 years of contract control. Like he's, you know, he's pretty good. And even if they do keep him, I think he's the guy we're going to be talking about like in July. Like, hey, what are the Sox going to trade Davis Martin for? Because I think he's, you know, there's no I just like think he's going to be pretty good. So, you know, he just becomes that. So yeah, pretty interesting. But I do think it's mostly Crochet probably for at least for the next 48 hours or so.
Yeah, I kind of have the feeling that Davis Martin is going to continue to just put up numbers, and I think with the addition of the kick change, he's just going to continue off where he left off last year.
He looked nasty when he came back last year.
Yeah,
And I know, like,
I
I didn't really watch that much, but I watched when he would when I watched when he pitched because I think we talked and you know it was kind of like, oh my God, Davis Martin looks good. Um, I think he's a guy that a lot of people aren't really talking that much about.
James says keep Davis Martin.
I'm fine. I'm fine with keeping Davis Martin. I just
Yeah,
I just think like in the position that they're in, like if they can get 3 prospects for Davis Martin and start Mason Adams instead, they might do it. You know, and I just used him as the placeholder name, but you know, it just they have to remake this org somehow.
yeah, I agree. I wouldn't be surprised if they did trade him, because if somebody's willing to give you a bunch, it's basically found money. It's like
Yeah.
going and finding an old pair of jeans just sitting, in your closet, and there's, $200 sitting in the
Yep.
pocket. You know, it'd be
Vince
unfortunate, but
Vince asked if Davis Martin was an 11th rounder. I believe he was like a 14th rounder. There was
I
so
think that's right.
one of those Hostetler drafts. There were like a bunch of like college pitchers who were ranked in the top like 200 or so at MLB Pipeline, who the White Sox got like on day 3 that were interesting. It was like Davis Martin, Jason Billis.
14th. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, it was like Martin, Billis. There might have been like a couple others that were interesting. There was like the guy that pitched out at Isaiah Carranza or whatever was,
Yeah.
never did anything, but he was like top 200
Injuries.
ranked in that draft. Yeah, there were like a lot of guys like that. And Davis Martin was, just had a bad junior year and then signed.
Yeah, and so I had a friend who went to Texas Tech, and he was telling me that he was like on track to be the guy, and then injury just kind
Hmm.
of derailed his career at Texas Tech, and then we just happened to, I guess they were projecting him that he could possibly be like late first, early second rounder,
Yeah,
and just that injury plagued year where he had bad results ended up just dropping his draft stock ridiculously. So
yeah. Oh man, do you see that one from Vince? Oh boy,
Uh,
I don't know. Oh, like
good night, man.
good.
It's a tough room for Mr. Hostetler over here. I mean,
Maybe I'd have to go back and look.
it's possible. Unfortunately, it is possible. Yikes.
I mean, he made like 160 picks, so it's I don't know.
Well, we know it wasn't Zach Collins.
It was not no, or any of the first rounders, or Alec Hansen, or just yikes.
All
Nick
right, so Uncle
Madrigal,
Ted's making a prediction here. You tell
mm,
me what you think about this. Uncle
Jake
Ted says
Eater.
that Jake Eater will be good this year.
Um.
What role will that be
So
in as well
yeah,
is a
yeah.
question.
So I think like there's a chance that Jake Eater could be good this year if the White Sox just decide to like convert him to relief and tell him to throw fastball slider. And all of a sudden we're like, hey, Jake Eater's pretty good in this role. I just not that I think like the starting pitching ship has sailed, but he's like 26 and there's a million starters that they're going to start ahead of him. So I feel like if you can recoup any value at all, it's one of the things I will say. Elijah and Jeff just kind of talked about minor league rotations,
Yep.
and they were talking about Eater, and I think there's a couple other candidates too that we don't need to get into tonight. But there's just some guys where they got to think about it at this point. Like, okay, maybe like the relief transition makes sense. There's also a lot like in the comments. There's a lot of people asking about Andrew Vaughn. I I, I don't think Andrew Vaughn has any trade value at $6 million. Like I just don't. Um, I think the White Sox brought back Andrew Vaughn because for whatever reason they like him, and I think they want to get full or like a half season for him. But I doubt he has anyone interested in his services that'll be willing to send you anything in return.
That's my thinking as well, is that if they do take him, it's going to be simply freeing up a 40-man slash 26-man spot and, getting like I don't know, maybe an A-ball guy with some upside, you know,
Yeah, like do you
just
get
because of the money.
right? Like do you get a ready first baseman in one of these trades? Right, where you change your mind or you pivot, right? If for some reason like you get Tristan Cassis like in the Boston trade, like do you keep him and play Vaughn too, or do you just get rid of Vaughn at that point? I don't know.
I've never been a Tristan Cassis guy personally. Um, it just does that does not excite me at all.
Yeah,
Just
the
as a thought.
Boston non like prospect deal doesn't. Yeah, I would not be a fan of that either. Like I don't really understand it.
All right. So TJ's asking in the Rule 5, would you have a preference personally between the pitcher Smith, Milwaukee, and Webb, Cleveland? Say it'd probably be
Yeah,
Webb, right?
I mean, well, to me, like the issue with Ryan Webb is like I think you might have him already. Like I don't really know the difference between him and like a Kai Bush. I just like think you have the like he's a back end lefty who could definitely like pitch in your rotation, like for sure. Like so, like if are a team like the Marlins or what Oakland did last year, like yeah, you could take him and you could stick him in your rotation and you don't care about wins and losses, so it's fine, right? But like the Sox have a ton of guys like that. Um So I just kind of feel like they're going to take like the biggest impact reliever that they can. I mean, I heard that they pretty much have their mind set on taking a pitcher. So I think then you're talking about a couple of names. I brought up that Seth Smith or Shane Smith last week because like his write up made sense. I haven't heard that. I mean, I did hear a little bit about Griff McGarry. McGarry's interesting because he is disgusting, but he just like doesn't throw strikes. But he was really good in the Arizona Fall League, and I know that Gene Watson was sitting on the Fall League, for a while here. And then one guy who a lot of people think is just going to be awesome, but he's probably like just a lefty reliever is that Brian Magdaleno from
Yeah.
Texas. Yeah, like I mean, do you want to use that pick on a second lefty? Or do you want more impact than that? You know what I mean? Like they're picking one, man. Like so like I understand like Brian Magdaleno could stick in your bullpen and he could be like pretty good, but I mean he's not a setup guy. He's not a closer. He's just like a lefty out of your pen with good stuff, which is okay, but like do you take that 1-1 in the Rule 5? I don't really know.
Yeah, and this is also a thing is we don't know exactly how many teams are going to be actually making picks in this Rule 5. I mean, we've seen it before where, only what like 3 teams even pick in the ML in the major league version of the Rule 5. So, I mean, it's possible that it could possibly even get both depending on what other teams think of whatever players are available. I mean, they might get their top 2 guys that they want just because somebody else doesn't pick them.
Right. Yeah, I'd be more like if they really like two guys, I'd be trying to like get up there and get another guy because it's really easy to trade for picks in the Rule 5. Guys, teams pass all the time.
Yeah, and also, it's not like there's anybody that is necessarily holding any of these guys back
Mhm.
that doesn't have enough control that they could keep them around,
Well, they
for an
also
entire year.
they also like I don't think many teams do this, but they can choose to take a second guy in like the second round too. It's just nobody does that, right? Like if you're like, hey, we kind of want to bring Bob Seymour to spring training, like as our Gavin Sheets, like you could probably take him with the second pick or with the first pick in the second round of the Rule 5 if you wanted to. I just
That's
don't
what
know
I'm
that I
saying.
just don't know that they're interested in doing that. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's entirely possible, but I mean, they do need an impact bat. This much we know. Now, I mean, is Bob Seymour that guy? But I don't know. I mean, the problem is that you look at his K rate, and he's pretty much exactly where Tim Elko is, which is almost where Andrew Vaughn is, which is right where Sheets was.
Yep.
It's like how many of these guys, obviously, but like I said, you're looking for an impact guy, and somebody like Elko or Seymour is a little bit more along the lines of what you're looking for, as opposed to what we currently had rostered with Vaughn and Sheets.
Yeah, and I think like look, if you traded Luis Robert and Andrew Benintendi, maybe like Christian Franklin like makes some sense, right? But with those guys like on the roster, it just doesn't make any sense to like add a position player that you're going to have to hide all season, really. So that's where like the pitching plan makes some sense, I guess.
Yeah. So Dodgers have agreed to a deal with Michael Conforto per sources.
Great. So he'll have like a
Um,
150 WRC plus against righties next year.
yeah, probably. Let me look
Who
here.
is
There's a
he?
couple of things. What's
Who is
that?
he replacing? Did they lose anyone? Like, is that like a Jason?
Pollock?
The dot? Yeah, I mean, like who was their? Who did they play against righties? I guess last year because like Otani's the DH, so he's gonna have to play some outfield. I mean, they might lose Teoscar Hernandez,
Yeah.
but Hernandez kills lefties, so maybe they're just gonna like create their own platoon or Conforto's a bench bat or something. I don't know.
Hmm. Yeah, that's a good question. So let's see here. Where was the other one? There was another question here that I was going to bring up. Oh yeah, the so we haven't talked about this, but I'll go ahead and bring this up. The Cubs Mariners 3-team thing is not a thing anymore. From what we've heard, it's stalled and that's pretty much dead, right?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think like something like that makes sense, but like that whole time it seemed like the Mariners like weren't getting enough in return for me. I think the issue has been like the Mariners have no money. They can't just like take in Bellinger. They've been rumored with Nico Horner as well, which makes sense, right? So full disclosure here, like I get a message from multiple Cubs like bloggers that I know the other day in the morning, right? And they're like, "Hey, have you heard anything about this Mariners Cubs Sox 3-teamer where Crochet goes to the Cubs?" And I said, "Nope, I have not." So, like reached out and what like somebody in Seattle that I can kind of, whatever. So I did hear it from the Seattle side, like too, that there were at least like talks. And I had heard about, and what I texted you, right? I had heard Harry Ford mentioned. I'd heard Owen Casey mentioned, which is probably an okay package for Crochet. But the problem is, like, if you're the Cubs, like, you're giving up a big leaguer, like a big league starter of some sort, right? Plus Casey, plus other stuff to get Crochet in return. But then the Mariners are giving up prospects too to get like just Horner, who's expensive and hurt. I don't know. It was just kind of weird. So as soon as I tweeted like about it, I piggybacked off one of the bloggers, like somebody that I trust, like texted me and was like, one of the like one of the people directly involved said that like this is like not true. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. So now it'll probably happen like tomorrow night or something, but whatever.
Of
I
course, it will happen first thing in the
Yeah.
morning after we've just done this.
Well, I think the Cubs are interesting because I think Casey makes a lot of sense for the White Sox.
Yeah,
And
no, for
and
sure.
if they don't trade Bellinger, like he has nowhere to play. Like I could totally understand if they trade Bellinger for pitching and then Owen Casey's like part of their team, like that makes a lot of sense. But if he's not, that's the type of guy like, lefty with power that could play right field. Like I could see him as like a headliner for the Sox. I do think there are like a whole bunch of people that are skeptical or like don't want Garrett Crochet to end up on the Cubs. Like I don't really care at this point. I want the best package. So
Yeah.
if they're willing to step out and do it, great, works for me. And I don't think Jerry Reinsdorf cares. I've seen like those comments too. Like Jerry's not gonna let he doesn't care.
The one thing that kind of had me a little bit flummoxed was the Ford piece of it. I just didn't know like how he fit.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, of course, you want to get the most upside that you can. It just didn't seem like with where the White Sox system is right now, that one in particular just didn't make a whole lot of sense why you would target that, other than you just want like the highest ranked prospects that you can get.
Right. Like, yeah, maybe he was the guy that like, right, that Seattle felt was expendable and you're just like, you just are collecting talent. I do think he could potentially play center field. Um,
True.
the issue is he's like, I think plus defensively at catcher and you already have Caro. So while it's like Ford can play somewhere else, like, is he the most valuable at catcher? Right. And then that's where it like doesn't really make as much sense. Um, but yeah, pretty, I mean, this stuff's interesting. We're gonna have like days and days of signings and trade rumors, hopefully.
Yeah. All right. So I want to answer Doug's question here. He says, how many can you make in the Rule 5? So here's the deal with the Rule 5. There are no set amount of picks that you can make in the Rule 5. There's no set amount of rounds. It's however many picks, however many guys that you can get in under the 26 man before you run into
Yeah.
roster issues. That's the thing.
Yeah, because you have to carry the guy. And it's not a huge deal like in the offseason because they're just on your 40 man. But then like once you get to the regular season, like you either have to carry a guy on your 26-man roster, put him on the injured list, or give him back, basically. So, how many guys, and look, there's not that many guys that stick, honestly.
It's pretty small. But I mean, Santander's out there right now as a
Yeah.
free agent, and he was one. So I mean, there it does happen. It's just not. It's not. They are the exception, not the rule
Well,
for
and here's
sure.
the thing: somebody that gets taken in this Rule 5 draft will stick. And in
Probably a
theory,
reliever.
with the White Sox having the first pick, they should be able to identify who that guy is. Now, that's funny, right? But somebody will stick. Somebody always sticks.
We know about assuming. We know how
Right.
that always
Right.
ends up
Yes.
going. So Ralph says DFA everyone, call up everybody. Project Birmingham 2.0. I mean,
Yeah. I mean, it's
if they trade Robert and Benintendi, That's entirely possible that that's what we could be looking at.
I mean, yeah, it's a minor league team if there's no yeah, I mean, you trade Benintendi and Robert, you know who the highest paid player on the team is?
It's probably a reliever, huh?
It's Andrew Vaughn.
Oh, yikes.
We don't have the number yet, but it's going to be 5 or 6 million like we've talked about, right?
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
like if
yeah.
they
It's
dump those two guys, like it's Andrew Vaughn's team, baby.
imagine. So here's something that I wanted to bring up is because there's a lot of comments in here about Miguel Vargas in the chat here, and it says, is there a metric that's overlooked with Vargas that predicts he might get it together? Hard hit percentage, exit velo. If you look at his PCL numbers when he was with the OKC Dodgers, the guy murdered the baseball. So it is entirely possible that he was just very uncomfortable when he came to Major League Baseball and that he could completely turn it around. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, he's hit everywhere else that he's been, so I would not be surprised. What do you think, James?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's possible that he's better. I mean, I don't know that he's ever going to be like the top 50 prospect in the sport that like people projected, but I mean, like the one thing we've talked about, like he played Pacific Coast League for Oklahoma City. And there's like inflated statistics in that league because the ball flies and the pitching's not great. But I mean, it's not like he was hitting 45 homers a year. He's like got a really good eye. So yeah, it's high exit velocities and a ton of walks. And obviously he did not do that with the 2024 White Sox. The other issue is you'd like to acquire players who have like definite defensive positions, and I'm not sure he can play defensively anywhere, which is a big problem, obviously. Um, but I do think they might be able to salvage a little bit more, like out of the bat at least.
Don't do that, Uncle Ted. Don't do that. Don't bite on the Spencer Jones hype. Don't do it. Don't do it. Zach Collins. That's all I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
Um, let's see here. Oh, yeah. It's Howard mentions that it's possible the Dodgers might be losing Kike,
Oh,
which would be a big loss for that team because he always seems to come up clutch whenever they need something.
yeah. So this Nando brings up John Heyman. Did you see the John Heyman thing?
I did not.
Okay.
Oh, the radio
Where he like
interview?
freaked out on the radio.
Yeah.
So here's what I'm gonna say about that. Like that's Philly and New York like radio. Like the guy was a total jag to him, right? Like I think it's fair, like making fun of John Heyman, right? Like everybody knows like Heyman is basically in Boris's pocket and like the arson judge thing, haha. But like if John Heyman decided to come on our Future Sox podcast, like I wouldn't like make fun of him for like being in Scott Boris's pocket and then get mad that he like took offense to it. Like it's just like he's on your show. Like why I just like don't understand what like it kind of seemed like the host like thought he was being funny. And it's like, no, you're like totally like calling this dude out like for this.
Yeah, telling him that he's on the payroll of an agent.
Well, and that joke's
Pretty
been around
dicey.
forever because he does. He knows somebody at Boris and he has like all like he does the Boris's dirty work for him. But you know what? He gets scoops. Like everybody does it. Like that's like how the game is played. You know?
I was a huge fan of how he ended the call. How
Yeah, where
he's
he like
just
couldn't
like,
believe he
I
freaked
can't
out.
believe it, and his
Yeah.
voice got like super loud. It's hilarious. Like I
Well,
was
that's what he gets for
dying
going on
laughing.
WFAN. Like, I mean, what do you
Fair
think? I mean,
enough.
you know, it's like, come on.
Yeah. Oh, it's that was entertaining for sure. I enjoyed it.
But it's like I just don't understand having him on making fun of him and then like trying to get info out of him. Like if you just want to like have him on and hammer him and then like ruin a relationship and never have him back on again, like that I understand, right? But I don't understand like doing it and then getting offended that he got offended. Like when you were clearly like calling him out. Like
yeah, you want to be a smartass, and then you get called out for doing it. Don't be surprised. I
yeah,
mean, it was like I get it, it's kind of entertaining, but still.
yeah,
Um,
I don't know if we're going to get an arson judge at this winter meetings. I hope so. That was great.
yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm sure we'll get some sort of typo, some sort of ridiculous thing. I mean, Bob Nightingale loves to do that, and so does our buddy Bruce. Loves to throw a typo up.
Yeah.
So I don't think I don't want to touch this at all. I don't have an answer for this at all, Vince.
Um,
I do not know. It is a weird situation for sure.
yeah, the Cubs thing.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, well, I guess we'll see. I would not be thrilled if I was a fan of that team. And obviously we're White Sox fans, like I get it, right? Like whatever. I don't really understand the plan, who's at fault or what they're doing.
Well, if my team made $500 million
Right.
in revenue and it was, at least pseudo documented,
Yeah.
I would be upset if they were spending less than the White Sox did last year
Yeah,
or
and then
right around
you
there.
told me you couldn't even get a meeting with Juan Soto. Like what are we doing? You know.
Yeah, pretty insane stuff. I don't really know. Yeah, I'd be pretty upset. James brings up, I will touch this because this is part of the thing that's been mentioned about the White Sox and Cubs with the Crochet thing. What do you think about Alcantara?
Yeah, okay, I guess. I mean, I like James Triantos. Like I just think they have like a ton of prospects. And look, half of them or more than half of them are gonna bust because like that's always what happens, right? But they like don't have anywhere for these guys to play because like they have no trade clauses in each corner. They have Nico Horner at second. They have a overrated, overpaid shortstop, and they traded for a young third baseman last year, right? You have Cody Bellinger on your team. They're trying to trade him because they thought he was gonna like they don't have anywhere for these guys to play, so they have to do something. And I know it's like people don't want them to just like play kids, and like I understand that, but like they have 8 top 100 prospects and they don't have like spots for any of them to play.
That's the thing is you've got all these top prospects and there's a bunch of them that are position players, yet you don't have anywhere to put them because you've got other guys that you've invested money into. You got to
Yeah.
figure out some way to make your team better because even if the guys that you've invested money in,
Mm.
even if they're like 110 WRC plus and you have somebody that you think might be possibly, in the 120, 130 WRC plus, OPS plus, whatever, whichever metric you want to choose, uh, you have to clear a spot for him somewhere. So, I mean, they gotta figure this thing out. Jack brings up, he says he thinks that Casey has too many red flags. I feel the same way about Triantos, that I feel that he's got some red flags that I'm not really too thrilled about it. Like he killed at the Arizona Fall League last year, and like that kind of like jump started him back to like kind of being productive again because he had a terrible year before the fall league last year. So I don't know. I just don't know how much I trust it. That's my thought on that one. Um, I will bring that up in a minute there, Giggities. That is definitely something that I want to bring up here. Um, you got anything else on the winter meetings? Anything that you're thinking about here that we haven't mentioned yet?
No, not just, I mean, the overall week for me, for people like me, like the draft lottery, even though the White Sox aren't picking till 10th, is Tuesday. The Rule 5 is Wednesday. I just, I find all this stuff kind of interesting. So,
Yeah, Jack asks if would you trade both Robert and Crochet to the Orioles if they included both Mayo and Basayo? Included? I would definitely think about it if they included those guys. And that wouldn't be the entire
yeah,
package,
it wouldn't be a
obviously.
two
But
for two. No, no,
I
probably
mean, I
not.
love Samuel Basayo, but
Yeah,
and Mayo as well. But you know,
yeah, yeah. I don't know. I mean, were you planning on doing any draft lottery other than right now or no?
so I mean, I guess we can talk about it because it's at the winter meetings. I mean, we're locked in at 10, so
Yeah, so just one thing I find interesting overall. So obviously we're gonna find out who's picking 1 through 18 here on Tuesday. The White Sox are pretty much locked in at 10, and the A's are pretty much locked in at 11. The one thing that I always forget about, okay, the Mets at 28, the Yankees at 29, the Dodgers at 30. Their picks are gonna move back 10 spots because they hit like the second part of the like collective bargaining, whatever, like they went over the de facto salary cap thing. So the Mets won't pick till 38, the Yankees won't pick till 39, and the Dodgers won't pick until 40. That means the first round ends effectively then after 27 with the Guardians. Another thing I didn't realize, which is ridiculous, is that the Royals qualify for one of those PPI picks because of Bobby Witt Jr. somehow, because he
Yeah.
because he finished top 3 for MVP like in his 3rd season. So the Royals get a PPI pick at 20, which will be like 28. And then something else interesting then, the Orioles would get a first rounder for Burns, a first rounder for Santander, and then the Brewers will get one for Willie Adames, and the Diamondbacks would get one for Christian Walker. I've read somewhere that Baltimore is reluctant to like sign a qualifying offer free agent like pitcher
Yeah, I saw that as well.
because they don't want to like give up the draft pick, but it does seem like the draft pick would be like pick 30 or something. That's the pick they'd have because they have to give up their 3rd highest pick, which would be one of those other ones. So I understand that. Like, I mean, if you can sign Max Fried, you definitely do it. But I don't know that I would do it to sign Nick Pavetta, like
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
So there's that. And then obviously like the White Sox second pick is going to be right around like 44 or something like that. So that's like the first pick in the second round. The other thing is I'm wondering if they wait. I think if they wait until Tuesday, I don't know that they have to, but I'm wondering if they try to get like a comp pick from somebody in like one of these deals. Like I tweeted about it earlier when I found out about the Reds, right? Do you get a couple of position players from the Reds and their comp A pick, which would be like in the 30s potentially, because that's kind of a big significant trade chip, So that's one of the other things. And then Severino was brought up. That is
Yeah,
wild.
I wanted to bring that up, but I
Yeah.
was gonna wait for this
Yeah.
thing to
That
come
is
to a head
that
here.
is wild. Um so the A's sign Luis Severino 3 years 67 million um and effectively give up like the 48th pick in the draft to do it.
What even is that?
Yeah.
I do not understand.
So as a small revenue club, they give up their 3rd highest pick. Okay. They're picking at 11, but they also have a comp A pick. So, what, 35, something like that. So then their second rounder is the 5th overall pick in the second round, and it'll be like around 48 or something. So they'll be giving up like the 5th overall pick in the second round for the signing of Luis Severino.
And did you see the picture of him at the field that he's gonna be
Yeah,
pitching at?
yeah, yeah.
So the look on his face was just like, "What did I get myself into?" It looked
Yeah.
brutal.
Have you thought of like, I don't know, I guess like the most interesting thing, like for like who could move up to number 1? Like what would be cool? Do we care at all? I don't know that I care at all. Because obviously last year it sucked because Cleveland got it.
Yeah, well, Jack
Um,
brings up, can't wait for the Twins to get number 1. Well, that
yeah.
would be awful.
Yeah, I mean, I guess for the storyline, like I'm not like a super Cubs hater and I love the draft. So like if they got 1, I would find it interesting because at least they'd be
Yeah, no, for
because
sure.
they'd be like forced to talk about it locally and it would just be like another story. Like that would be kind of cool. Like even if they were in the top 5 or something, I'd be like, oh, the
It
Cubs,
would
okay.
allow them to talk about baseball on
Right, like they
670
would,
The
yeah,
Score
like
for
they would,
once, you
I could,
know?
yeah, like I could talk Cubs draft strategy with my buddies. But other than that, like, yeah, I don't think there's like a team that like deserves to move up to number 1. Or it's kind of boring at the top if it stays chalk. It's like Marlins, Rockies, um, Angels.
I kinda would love to see the Rockies get it just because I wanna see how badly they botch it,
Right.
because 'cause they're really good at that. Um, so I wanna bring this up here from, Trey. He says, "What about Basayo with them signing Sanchez? Just a one-year deal." And to be honest, I would not be surprised. One guy that really, really helped, and this is somebody that I didn't bring up in our, Walker McKinven, uh, stream the other week, was one of the guys that was really helped by Walker McKinven was Gary Sanchez. And without him having Walker McKinven around, I don't know if he's going to be as good as he was last year defensively. So
Yeah, I'm kind of like,
uh,
what's the point of that signing for them?
I don't know. I don't get it. I mean, they got Adley Rutschman, so I mean they need a backup. So maybe they wanted
And James
the
McCann was horrible, right? So,
he yeah. I mean, he had some yeah, he had some injury issues, and he didn't really hit all that
I
particularly
so I
well,
do
which we
think
knew.
I actually think James McCann makes some sense for the White Sox right now.
I mean,
A guy like that. I mean, because like I don't really want to go into the season with Chucky Robinson. Um,
yeah, no, that's fair.
um, and I was like a big like proponent of the Grandal signing, and it didn't work, right? So I was like at the forefront of like all these arguments with people about how like signing Grandal was a better idea, and just like letting James McCann walk was smart, and like they should have done that. And
Yeah,
they
no.
and they and they did. But I take him back now. I mean, like as a platoon with Corey Lee, like on a bad team, I think it's fine.
The A's do lose that
Oh yeah.
draft pool money, right? Yeah,
Oh
that's
yeah.
what I thought.
Yeah. Yeah. So they'll just have like a smaller overall bonus pool.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean there was a time where James McCann, like that's the thing is that James McCann put together two very good half seasons, just not in the same year. Unfortunate for him.
Yeah.
And it did not continue.
Well, remember he got like a ton of the credit for Lucas Giolito's breakthrough. Yeah.
Yeah, by
So
having him throw like 85 changeups in a row, you know?
right. Yeah. Yeah. Throw your best pitch more.
Yeah, shocking.
Mhm.
Let's see. Now, see, this is the guy that I brought up to you when we were talking with Sean about Edwin Arroyo. Uh, I mean, basically, there's a couple of guys here from the Glendale Desert Dogs in a Reds deal, but you did happen to mention that somebody had said something about it not being on the table anymore, possibly.
Well, it was so weird because like John Paul Morosi like mentioned Reds and Cubs the other day, right? And then that Chris Cotillo basically said that like the Red Sox aren't being super aggressive on Crochet, and they're like more on the periphery, and that the Reds were like a team that could realistically land him. And then there's a write up at MLBTradeRumors.com that basically has like Gordon Wittenmeyer, who's the old Cubs beat writer, who's their beat writer, that says that like, oh, they talked, it didn't go anywhere, and like those talks are done. Which it's strange, but you're right. I do think like if a Reds trade happens, I don't think the Sox are targeting one of those like top pitchers that's in the system. So my guess is like Arroyo is probably the headliner like in a trade like that. Now it's probably a depth, like you can call it a depth trade, you can call it quantity, whatever, but I would think like Arroyo and Collier plus other stuff. If that's what it was. And you're really gambling on Arroyo staying healthy, is the big thing. And like Cam Collier, I loved because he was one of these junior college guys. He was like a 17-year-old kid that was in junior college. But a lot of people think he ends up at first. He, he's gonna mash though.
Yep. Did you happen to see this? Uncle Ted says the Reds are going after Josh Naylor.
I did
If
not
I was the
see that,
Guardians,
but I saw that he's available.
yeah, Andrew Vaughn's available.
Yeah,
I mean, like that's essentially what we're saying here is that it's
yeah.
not like any
He's
great shakes, big
well,
deal.
he's basically too expensive now for the Guardians, and they traded for. They have like an old Rays prospect first baseman that they want to play. So
Yeah,
I
Vince
don't.
says I like Naylor, old school fat guy who hits bombs and also stabs his teammates in the locker room.
Yeah, yeah. Do you remember when he like basically ended the White Sox that night with that grand
Oh
slam?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, that was like
awful.
the end of the modern White Sox. Was that night? It was all
Yeah, that
over.
was one of the worst. I
Liam,
was
like yeah, like
so I was so pissed.
yeah, that was bad.
All right, so let's move on from this. There's so much winter meeting
Yeah,
stuff, and we can just sit here and go through all these rumors forever. Yes, Dan, we saw the Morosi thing about Marcelo
make
Meyer
then make
possibly being
then make the
available.
trade because I mean I don't think you're gonna do better than that. So
Yeah, no, that's fair. All right, so let's go ahead and move over to this. I wanted to bring this up because this is huge news. It's something that realistically, in my opinion, should have happened probably about 30 years ago. But today, the ERA committee finally decided to elect Dick Allen into the Hall of Fame. Um, from the mid 60s to the mid 70s, almost only Hank Aaron was better than him for 10 years. And that includes so many Hall of Famers, so many people that have been in the Hall of Fame for 30 plus years. The fact that this is just happening today is absurd, and big huge fan. You got anything to say about that at all?
My dad loved Dick Allen. He told me
Yeah,
he was awesome. I've obviously seen highlights. I've obviously heard that he got quite the raw deal, and I think a lot of what sports writers kind of thought he was a jackass.
yeah,
And whatever. Like I don't know. I don't know. Seems fun though.
yeah. And this is like, and the same thing with the other guy who got in today. Speaking of guys that sports writers did not enjoy talking to, Dick Allen, Dave Parker,
Yeah.
just guys like that. The sports writers, they don't vote for him, so they don't get into the Hall of Fame. You could put Jeff Kent into that same thing. You know, guy was an
Yeah.
idiot. Fine. I don't disagree with that, but the numbers speak for themselves. I mean, like guys like this, even if, and if you go and listen to interviews with Bill Melton and basically any of the White Sox podcasts, everybody loved Dick Allen, just not the sports writers
Yeah.
for the most part, other than
Right.
Bruce.
Yeah, and he just like
So
didn't get in ever. Like it's kind of crazy. So yeah, I mean the whole thing is crazy. I mean they have this like modern era committee, where they like wait till these guys die to get in. And I don't know how you feel. We haven't really had like a Harold Baines conversation before. I remember old Harold Baines like from when I was young, and then look, I know like as like a stat head, right? Like I can go look at Fangraphs. Like to me, and like I don't know, maybe this is like a little bit ignorant, but like when Harold Baines gets in the Hall of Fame, like I kind of feel like you got to put a lot of guys in because like the longevity piece, right? Like he played for so long.
that's
Like
true. He
I
was a
feel
stat
like
accumulator for sure.
there's a lot of guys that aren't in that were probably better players at their at their peak than Harold Baines was. So it's like a tough, like it is tough. Like when you start letting guys in on committees like this, because then there's going to be a bunch of guys that you missed probably.
No, like that thing, like I said, Harold was a stat accumulator, but the kind of the way that I look about that is that he shredded his knee and he still managed to have the longevity to be able to be that stat accumulator. To me says that, you know, I don't have an issue with it
Yeah.
personally because of that. Um, so I kind of wanted to move along. One of the things that we wanted to talk about was the Baseball America stuff that just came out.
Yeah. Yeah. So their top tens are on their site. The
Yes.
30 that you're going to show, I don't think is updated from now, but that's their most recent 30. So it's post draft. So it's, pretty much what they've done.
Yeah. All right. Let me go ahead and bring that up. All right. So here's the projected 2028 lineup.
Crazy,
I
crazy.
got a
Like,
chuckle out of it.
yeah, the funniest part on there is like Garrett Crochet and Luis Robert are on it.
And Andrew Vaughn.
Yeah, like those two guys might not be on the team on Tuesday. Like, it just
Yeah.
doesn't. Yeah, like this doesn't work. I know they always do this, and like it's whatever. But
It's laughable at
okay,
best.
okay,
Every time they do it, I just look at it and I go, why are we even talking about this?
yeah,
It seems kind of silly. Um, I just wanted to bring it up because it's good for a laugh. But we do have one thing that I do find interesting that they do every year is they put up the best tools of each particular tool in the White Sox system.
oh yeah,
So there's some interesting stuff
yeah.
here.
There's not a chance in hell that Addison Coffee has a better changeup than Drew Thorpe does.
He graduated though, didn't he?
No, they see that this is what I don't understand about Baseball America. Like when you look at their top 10, Drew Thorpe is still on it
Ah,
because
true.
they don't count service time. They only count 130 at bats and 50 innings pitched. And he didn't get to 50 innings pitched, but he was on the active roster for more than the 45 days, which means he's not rookie eligible anymore. And Baseball America doesn't acknowledge it, and it doesn't make any sense. So, like, when Pipeline updates their list, like, Drew Thorpe won't be on it, but he's on the BA one.
Right. So regardless, and I don't know, there's there's a couple of changeups in the system that are pretty stinking nasty.
Yeah.
I was surprised by that one. Um,
Mm.
yeah. Fastest base runner, Riku Nishida. I don't know if I can go that far with that either. I don't know if he's fast, don't get me wrong,
Yeah.
but I think it's 100%
Mhm.
effort all the time. And I don't necessarily know that the speed is better than some of the other guys. But like some of this other stuff, like George Woolco is the best power hitter. I
Yep.
mean, just the power there, the effortless power is insane. Of course, the best control goes to Mason Adams. No shocker there. Um, Best defensive outfielder, Jacob Burke. That guy does make some really, really good plays. Do you have any thoughts on any of these other
They couldn't
things
fit
here?
Hagen Smith anywhere, huh?
You know,
Can you argue his slider against Schultz's? I mean,
I don't know.
Schultz
That's
is pretty
tough.
good, man.
Yeah, I if you guys did not happen to see this weekend, I threw a video up on Twitter and up on our YouTube page. If you're not subscribed to our YouTube page, please go over there. A bunch of highlight stuff pops up over there, along with this wonderful stream slash podcast. There is a video of 3.5 minutes of Noah Schultz just absolutely decimating hitters with his slider.
Yeah.
And it is just brutal. Just watching some of these swings that he's inducing. It is awesome. All right. So this isn't necessarily updated, but I just wanted to be just have fun and take a look at the Baseball America top 10 here. Actually, the top 30. I've got the entire 30, but it's probably not updated yet. But we'll go ahead and throw that up anyway. So you've got Noah Schultz, Colson Montgomery, Hagen Smith, Drew Thorpe, Edgar Caro, Kai Bush, Jairo Iriarte, Grant Taylor, Nick Nastrini, and Brian Ramos.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, we have Taylor a little higher. We also have George Wolkow a lot higher than they have him. So even in
Yeah.
their updated top 10, they don't have Wolkow in it. They added to this. So this top 10 was their most recent top 10.
This is right after the draft.
You're
They
right,
slotted all the
there's
draft guys in.
there's a new one where they have Bonham in it.
I do not have that one. I could
Yeah.
grab it, of
Yeah, it's
course, but
on Baseball America's main page, I think. But I mean, still, this is, Noah Schultz, Colson Montgomery, Hagen Smith, and Edgar Caro are the top four. They've kept Drew Thorpe on, and then I think at that point, I think we've kind of leaned towards Wolko and Grant Taylor. A lot of other publications have gone Jairo Iriarte.
all right,
I
here it
just
is.
I don't
I
really
got it.
understand Wolko any lower than that though. It's just at this point
They had
doesn't really make any sense.
Yeah, on this one, I'm just clipping this top 10 here right
Yeah.
quick, so I can throw that
Kai
on
Bush
here.
is fine, but he's too high. It's just not.
Yeah, and here's the thing is that surely George Wolko would be there in the 10 to 20 or the 11 to 20. No, he's not.
Yeah, I
He's
know.
not there.
They just they went way overboard on the strikeouts and cared way too much about it.
Yeah, at 22, like just way way down the list.
Yeah.
I have to say I was pretty surprised by that. I'm gonna go ahead and bring up this thing here. Give me
The
one second. Yeah,
the
the
updated one.
new top 10.
Yeah, and that came out this week, I believe. So they have Schultz, Montgomery, and Hagen Smith with Carroll. They kept Thorpe on, like we said. Jairo Iriarte and then Grant Taylor. I think, if you like Jairo Iriarte better than Grant Taylor, that's fine, but I would have Grant Taylor. See, for us, Drew Thorpe is no longer on our list. So Grant Taylor is at 5. It's pretty aggressive on Bonham, but I like it because Bill Mitchell, who I think we're going to talk to next week, that wrote this list, saw him a ton in instructs and out on the backfields in Arizona. So That's pretty positive. And then Kai Bush and Mason Adams, both back end types. Probably like I would have Wolko on this list. And then I'd probably have Mason Adams on too, and Bush not.
Yeah. Yeah, that probably makes sense to me as well. I mean, I like him, but I kind of feel like
Yeah.
that's a little bit aggressive for him.
Yeah, and then the
All
next
right.
guy's in, like I think like a guy that really kind of pushed his way up here is like an Aldrin Bautista, just like with the upside that he has. And then there's like a whole host of guys. 10 to 20 is kind of difficult.
Yeah. Let's see here. Yeah, Vince. They do have different sliders, but it's there's a very different arm slot, and there's also the fact that Noah throws multiple different sliders. So that also changes things a little bit. Is that you could look at one slider and it looks completely different from the other. It's just which one he happens to be throwing at that time. And if you watch the video, and I don't know if you did or not, but I mean, you'll see there's all sorts of different movement profiles from his slider just in that video that are just all nasty. So I wanted to move along to the MLB Pipeline 100, the top 100 for the draft, and just get your thoughts on that and what you think about that.
Yeah, I mean, I love how many high school like position players are on it, and especially when the White Sox are picking 10, and lots of teams gravitate towards like college performers like up at the top, and I would always prefer like a prep hitter like in the area that they're picking in. So I think they can get somebody really good at 10, right? Like I think it's unfortunate that they can't pick higher than 10, but their job is to nail the 10th pick. And in this class, I feel like it's not that huge of a deal because I don't think the class is that good. Um, so it's not like you need a top 3 pick to land somebody awesome. Like I kind of think like Ethan Holiday is a stud, and I think Chase Laviolette as of right now is like the top college hitter. But after that, like these guys are all kind of similar.
Yeah, and we're not going to get either of those guys. We're not going to even sniff those guys. So who was the guy that you had mentioned that you had as your
Oh,
favorite out of the gate?
Eli Willits, I
That's who it
said.
was.
Yeah, because I love this. I love like anybody that's listened to me long enough knows that I love these like super young dudes. Like
He's a shortstop, right?
he's really young, stinking young, man. So he turned 17, I think, like just like this weekend. Um, so he won't be 18 until next December, and he's like drafted out. So yeah, switch hitting shortstop out of Fort Cobb, Broxton, Oklahoma. His dad was Reggie Willits,
And his
who
brother's not
who
Bryce Willits.
who played in the big leagues. I don't believe
No,
so.
no
No.
relation.
Yeah.
I looked.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
looked like
So
last year, I think, when
yeah.
when
So
I saw the name.
yeah. So this is the guy that I have my heart set on right now. But it's a long time from now. But no, there's just like there's a ton of high school players up here. There's like Kason Cunningham is a shortstop from Texas. There's multiple California kids. So if you want a prep hitter, there's a ton of them. And then we'd be remiss, like we can't bring up any of this without Devin Taylor is the left-handed hitting starting center fielder for the Indiana Hoosiers. They have him at 20. I've seen him like in the top 10 in mock drafts before. Indiana guy. So, I feel like he's probably automatically an option. Um, and then Illinois has one of the top prep pitchers in the class, and Cameron Appenzeller is at 22. He's a 6'6" lefty um, down in Glenwood, Illinois,
Mm.
and that's
Hmm.
where obviously like a ton of pitchers have been. That's like where the Detmers went to school. Is like down there.
Hmm.
So yeah, Illinois. They've had some preps lately, obviously, and Ryan Sloan, Noah Schultz, Owen Murphy, Blake Walters, like a whole bunch of dudes coming out of Illinois lately.
Doug brings up a good thing here, and I did not happen to listen to the Effectively Wild podcast that he is referencing here. But he said that they made a comment about high school players getting potentially more money from college through NRI deals than their signing bonus. And this is something that I've thought about is how much do you think that this is? And like, I don't know what the NRI deals for baseball players
Yeah.
necessarily look like compared to like top, football prospects.
Hmm.
But have you put any thought into this at all?
Well, so I know Tyler Bell from Lincoln Way East. He got drafted by the Rays in like the supplemental round, right? So I think they could have got him close to $2 million. And he turned them down and went to Kentucky instead because I think he got, you know, maybe not $2 million, but maybe he decided, if I can get $1 million and go to Kentucky for 2 years, like that's a better plan than taking 2 million from the Rays, right? I think these guys at the top, like they're gonna take their 5 million and go pro. But no, I think it's a thing. I think if you have a high school guy that underachieves who, it was big with Caleb Bonnemer. Like there were a lot of people that thought Caleb Bonnemer was unsignable. And he got $3 million. I mean, that was the number, right? All these kids have a number. Like I'm sure if it was $2 million, Caleb Bonnemer would have went to Michigan or wherever he was wherever he was supposed to go to school.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, I think it's definitely a thing, but I don't think like the top guys, right? Like if you're going to be a top 20 pick, you can't make that in college. There's no way.
Yeah.
But if you're a comp round guy, especially if you're one of these guys who's a little bit old who could declare after your sophomore year, like in some cases it makes a lot of sense to go to school.
Yeah, I mean, and I think it kind of works both ways. Is that's there are select cases where guys go to school and they end up making a bad choice, but
Oh,
for the
100%.
most,
Yeah.
like we talked, and I'm going to bring his name up now. We talked to Doyle about this stuff,
Yeah.
and like he says, just take the bag.
Right. Yes.
Like there's a certain time where you just have to say, you know what,
Yeah.
even if it possibly gets a little bit better than this,
Mhm.
it's never gonna generally get more than you're getting when you're one of those top like couple around players.
Yeah. Well, so I've always joked about this and I always said it like before I had my own children, right? You have a high school age son and I didn't tell you that I was going to do this, but it's like I mean, your kid's got his heart set on playing college baseball and somebody offers him $1 million out of high school. Like, I mean, how do you turn down $1 million? Like when the school's going to pay for you to just go, like, if you flame out, like you're going to college after, you know what I mean? Like you guys are good parents. It's not like you're not going to make him go, you know what I mean? Like, hey, now go get your degree and go do what you were going to do. But I just like, I just don't understand if somebody offers you $1 million, like not taking it. So
Yeah, no, if somebody offers my son $1 million, he's more than likely going to play baseball
yeah,
because
like, I mean,
he doesn't even really like have any interest in going to college other than to play sports.
yeah.
So like I'm not gonna force him
Hmm.
to do something like that when like who else is gonna give you $1 million? Just take the $1 million, go play baseball, have fun,
Yeah, and I get it. Like, if you look at so like Noah Schultz, right? I know Larry. We both know Larry pretty well, and I would never ask him this question because it's not fair. But like Noah Schultz took $2.8 million from the White Sox. I think it's safe to say that like while a lot of people had high expectations for Noah Schultz, the expectation was not best left-handed pitcher in minor league baseball, right? If he goes to Vandy and does this for 2 years, like I mean, he's making $7 million probably,
at
like,
this
and it
well,
like, so
yeah,
I get it,
but
right? I get like when guys go, like,
yeah, but the bonuses have also like escalated so much over the last few years that
yeah,
there's
yeah,
also
and
that
and everything
to
has
bring
to and
in.
everything has to go right for you, like Like Jack Leiter was offered a ton of money out of high school. His father played Major League Baseball. He went to Vanderbilt, and he still like made that money.
Yep.
But there's a lot of guys who went to school and never got paid. A
That is
lot.
exactly right. That is exactly right. You got anything else burning here?
Not yet. Nothing's happened yet. So, we're gonna stay up all night and see if Steve Cohen signs Juan Soto.
Yeah, I mean, because why would it happen while we were actually on stream?
Right. Yeah, I know.
Ugh. Well, Adrian says Soto to the Mets.
Did it
Yeah, we'll
happen?
see. Not that I know of. But I mean, it could have.
No,
Who
it happened.
knows?
It happened. It just happened.
Yes, it did. Look at that.
15
700.
years, 765. Wow.
Oof. That is some serious coin. No. See, here's where the question comes in:
So he
is
just kept
are they
raising it,
deferring?
didn't he?
He
Cohen.
had to have, right?
He's just like in the guy in the auctions, like, yeah, okay, I'll go higher. Okay, I'll go higher.
Yeah, he's not getting outbid, so he just keeps on. Oh, they're gonna give you 750. All
Right.
right, here's 765. You know,
It's the largest contract in sports history. 15 at 765. Insanity.
holy
Oh, I can't
smokes!
wait for the Yankee tears.
$51 million a year. I bet you it's that extra $1 million
Yeah.
from over 50 that got it done. I
Dude,
bet you.
Yankee Twitter's going to be so fun.
Yeah, hold on. I gotta. Speaking of my son,
Yeah, you're getting the texts.
I'm texting him right now because I know that he's gonna be interested.
This is like, like when you're Steve Cohen, this is why you buy your favorite team. Is when guys like this become free agents and you're just like, he's going to play for me because I'm not going to get outbid.
Well, it happened while we were on stream.
I'd love to know how high the Yankees went. I'm sure they'll leak it here soon. I thought Juan Soto was going to take the most money. I thought that the only way he was going to go back to the Yankees was if he just decided, like, I want to play for the Yankees. Because I just didn't think this guy was going to get outbid. Like, so I just didn't. Like,
I didn't think that the Yankees would let anybody outbid them.
well, like, yeah.
I mean, like how much money they generate every year, they have absolutely no business
Yeah.
getting outbid on anybody.
Right. Dude, Judge makes 360. Like, right? Isn't
For
that right?
what he did, like for like 13
I
years.
don't know, but it's not enough money.
Well, compared to this, now this is like this is obviously a conversation for another time. But at what point do these contracts get to like literally nobody can afford these salaries other than like the top
5 teams. Yeah.
yeah, there's just no
But
way.
the thing is, I don't know, like, the next guy like this. Like, it's going to be a while. This doesn't happen often.
No, that's true. But
That hit free agency at 26.
then Adamas is getting like almost $200 million as a guy with a 110
Yeah.
OPS plus.
Yeah. Like one of the biggest bargains. So we can't get into this because I'm just going to get mad. But like, I was talking with buddies earlier about how pissed I was about like the Bryce Harper thing with the White Sox because
Yeah.
like when you look at it and like teams weren't willing, like I remember the Phillies went like 13 at 325, right? And people are like 13 years, that's crazy. That deal is pennies, man. That is nothing. You get a face of your franchise for minimum 10 seasons, right? Even if like 11, 12, 13, it's like the corpse of Bryce Harper. Like that is nothing compared to what has happened like over the last 5 years. That was a perfect storm, and Jerry Reinsdorf should have did it. But he's a short-sighted old fool, and he didn't understand.
Yeah, that you and I are in lockstep on this one. Like if there's any deal where you and I were in agreement on something, this one is that the pinnacle of that.
Yeah.
Like both you and I have been saying this for years now, that that was the guy. They messed it up, and ever since then it's been they haven't finished it. And also, did you? I know you listened to in the clubhouse this weekend with Bruce
Yes.
and
Yes.
McGuffey, and McGuffey
McGuffey's
was
hammering him. Yes. Like,
destroying Bruce over the fact that the White Sox messed that whole thing up by not investing in the team and
well,
getting that.
well, and
Hilarious.
the guy that they kind of went after was the one who like didn't really want to come here anyway. Like Harper would have came.
Yep.
He would have. If you would have said like, "Hey man, like we really want to get this done. Like, what do you think? Like 12 years, 350, like come be the face of the franchise." It would have been done. It would have been done in November.
Yep. Been seeing him on.
He'd
I
still
had
be on the
dreams.
billboards. Like,
I had dreams about the billboards. I designed a T-shirt. I had everything. It was ready, and yeah, no. Oh well.
yeah.
Uh,
Adrian, send me a DM. You're welcome to the team. Yeah, that's fine.
Making dreams come true here, ladies and
Yeah.
gentlemen. So you have anything else going on, James, that you
Well,
want to
well, now
mention now
I'm
that this broke?
now I want to see if the floodgates open, but no, I mean, I'm kind of glad we were still on for it.
Yeah, me too.
If you would have made me predict, I mean, obviously I said Mets just because of Steve Cohen. I am curious to see how the Yankees pivot, if it means um like Max Fried, and Christian Walker and Bellinger, like they could go a lot of different directions. I mean, obviously, like the Yankees aren't gonna like take some step back and suck now. Like they're gonna go full throttle and spend the money on something. So I'm just kind of curious to see like how they achieve that.
Yeah, I interested to see what happens here. It's gonna be it's after that,
Yeah.
it's gonna make a lot of
Do you
other
have
things a lot
do you
more
have any
interesting.
like really good buddies that are Yankee fans?
I choose my friends better than that.
Yeah, I don't either. That's why I was right now I almost like wish I did, right? As like a lonely, pissed off White Sox fan, I could like jab him for losing Juan Soto. It's like, oh, that sucks. Hey, that 1 year Juan Soto looked fun. Haha. Like, but yeah.
Yeah, it almost won him something, and then it
Thanks for
didn't.
Drew Thorpe.
Yeah. All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for listening to the Future Sox podcast. If you are listening to this in podcast form, know that on Sunday nights at 8 p.m., we do this on YouTube. Uh, please subscribe to our YouTube channel where you can find these streams and also in audio podcast form. You can also find highlights of your favorite White Sox prospects. You can also find our other podcasts that pop up on here, whether it be the interview series that Elijah does, and also Elijah Evans and Triple A Jeff. They do the Future Sox Roundup. You can find that on here, and you can find it anywhere you find your podcasts. At Future Sox on the X/Twitter. My name is Ian Eskridge at Daily White Sox. He is James Fox at James Fox 917. We appreciate you guys so much. Thanks for coming and hanging out in the chat tonight. You guys are awesome. We appreciate you, and we'll talk to you guys next week. Hopefully, maybe even a little bit earlier if something interesting comes along. Maybe we'll hop on and take care of that. You will definitely see something from us on any deals that pop up. We appreciate you guys so much. We will talk to you soon. Have a great night. Thank you very much.